Alright friends, welcome back to Tactical Enlightenment. You're watching another episode of our Expert Tactics series, showing some of the most difficult battles I've faced in my campaign, and then deploying complicated and unique tactics to overcome these formidable challenges. In this battle, we have a little bit of an unusual circumstance for me. This is not something that often happens, but we effectively got cornered. There was a large army that was sort of pursuing us. I thought I had enough time to get into this town, sort of take some resources from it, gather some troops, and get out. But then another force of the, not of the Southern Empire, but one of our enemies that we're fighting, also started to attack, basically followed us into this area. We were sort of pinned in here, and the end result is we're going to have to fight this large force right at the edge of this town here. As you can see, they have almost 2,100 troops. We have 768, so we're outnumbered almost 3 to 1. I don't really like fighting in towns, but in this case, we're being forced to. So I'm going to play at normal player damage for this battle. Towns, typically, the most difficult thing about them is they're highly congested. You know, you have all these hedge ditches and rows. But this landscape's actually not too bad. There's some fields here where I can spread some archers out. It actually looks like I have an elevational advantage on my enemy early on here, and this little river will provide tactical opportunities as well. So I'm spreading out my army here. Of course, most of my units should be familiar with. To anybody who hasn't watched the channel yet, we'll run a little edit of this video when I process it, just to kind of show you what some of these units are for. I'm not going to do this every episode, but every once in a while I'll kind of update, especially newer subscribers. So very early on against this large force, I want to set up cavalry screens. No matter whether the enemy plays defensively or offensively, I like to put up some cavalry screens. These are basically shield wall cavalry, and I do that to buy myself some time. The enemy's right in front of us here. They already have cavalry right in our midst, and I want to kind of slow down their attack while I assess the battlefield, figure out a plan, and protect my units. Right, we're going to get our units moved into position. I can do a little sparring with these horse archers here. This character, for people who are not familiar, is actually a character that's no longer with the current campaign. This is the father of the character of a lot of the episodes you see. This guy's name was Grigor, and he was even more savage, if that's possible, than the current character. He wielded an extremely long, but yet still pretty fast polearm. And then he had, of course, a devastating axe that was a little slower than the current one that my character uses, but still plenty fast and extremely lethal, like you're one-shotting high-ranked troops. So tactically, what I want to do here is I'm looking at the enemy. I want to spread archers around because the enemy's taking a defensive stand. Now, I personally am not a fan of defensive formations. I know there's YouTube videos about so-and-so defeated the enemy with this defensive formation, this brilliant defensive formation. And I have had a few episodes where I've shown defensive formations that work. But defensive formations, for them to work, you must have an archer advantage or a plan to use your archers in a dynamic way. And the enemy here is not. Their enemy, they sort of have a huge infantry line sort of plugging up the middle, and their archers are only moderately effective behind it, right? They are firing bolts in. I've got to watch where I'm running here with my horse. But their archers are not spread. In an effort to protect their archers, what the computer's done, just whack this guy down. What the computer's done is they've essentially packed their archers in too tight for their infantry to protect them, right? So some of their archers could shoot, but a lot of them are just standing there with some fucking guy in front of their face, right? They can't even get a shot off. Plus, the guy has never brushed his teeth in his life. He's probably breathing onion breath all over him. They're having a miserable time, right? Their commander's a dipshit. They probably realize that even outnumbering us 3 to 1, they'll be lucky to win. And so, as you can see, I'm not a fan of onion breath or standard formations where the enemy is just sort of piled up into a big bundle of defenders. So I've got one archer division up on the hill. You can sort of barely see it to the right there. Another archer division right here. I'm putting that unit up on the hill effectively to support this other one. So I have one archer division down here, somewhat vulnerable. These guys are getting charged by cavalry. I'm doing my best to counter them. And then the other one is up on that hill, and the cavalry can't attack both. I've taken some shots here. So what I plan on doing in this battle is surrounding and destroying this force. Now, we have good archers, and we're not going to use them as poorly as the AI is using theirs here. The problem is that if I just rush my archers up to the face of this enemy, one of two very bad things will happen. They will either charge us with infantry, which is bad, right? Your archers being charged at point blank, or two, they will get pounded by arrows, crossbow bolts, etc., just like I was getting shot when they get close, right? The closer you get to that archer mass, the more they're going to be shooting in your face. So we'll move our 4th archers up here just to have a little bit better vantage point on the enemy. I don't think they're going to be able to do a lot of damage at that range, so we're going to have to get close. But what I'm planning on doing is using cavalry screens and systematically surrounding and destroying this enemy force. Cavalry screen is very effective, both at stopping archer damage, right? Those horses, they absorb a lot of arrows. But of course, the other advantage is that you can move troops behind them and the enemy can't really attack those troops, right? I should also say, of course, that the cavalry screen does a wonderful job of sort of plugging up the enemy, right? It prevents enemy horses from pouring through it and attacking your archers. So I've got my 3rd cav here on the side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drag my 8th unit, and I talked about that briefly in one of the little messages, one of the little graphic screens at the beginning. That's my elite unit here. We're going to move our 1st infantry up on the left flank here, supported by archers. And what I'm effectively going to try to do is use a cavalry screen to get our 8th Corps. It's about 60 guys, almost all archers and deadly javelin guys, into throwing range with the enemy. We're going to basically use the cavalry to protect them as we set this up. And then we're going to unleash hell on the enemy, right? Our other archers are firing. We'll hold fire, though, until we get our units in place. Actually, this bridge is nice because they can't shoot. It's like a barrier they can't shoot through. They can't shoot under it or through it. All right, so it's happening fast. I'm going to move my archers here. The cav screen is in place, right? You see this big wall of cavalry. And I called this 8th Corps right behind me. So now they are effectively starting to set up on the enemy flank. Now there's one major disadvantage that I'm anticipating here. In small maps like this, and almost all town battle maps are small. Look at the archers on the side there are doing nasty damage. When we moved here, by the way, the enemy, it looks like they rotated their whole formation. Well, a lot of their archers are now to the side of some of my other archers, and they're getting pounded. All right, so the 8th Corps is here. It's firing. These guys are ready to shoot. All I have to do now is move that cavalry out of the way, and all these guys have an open shot. Look at them just raining death in there. A few of them are just holding their shield up, which is fine, right? They're not all archers, but you can see the result here. The enemy is just getting absolutely pounded with arrows. But this is what I was concerned about. On small maps, your reinforcements sometimes will come out right in fucking front of you, right? They'll pull a magic trick. All of a sudden, you have enemy reinforcements right in your midst, and you have to deal with them. So we're going to do the best we can just to kind of deal with these waves. We're not going to attack the enemy while these waves are here. Right, we're going to chew through these. These are middle tier troops. These are not very strong troops, but they are preventing a lot of our units from shooting, right? It's distracting us. It's keeping us occupied. When we make our multiple attack on this enemy with 4 or 5 units at once, we're going to make sure our units are free, our units are clear, and we're able to attack. So again, I have my cav screen here sort of protecting the guys. I'm going to pick up a handful of, God, they're just javelins everywhere. And ultimately what we're planning on doing here is attacking the enemy from 3 sides. We have the 1st infantry over there and the 4th archers. I'm going to start moving them closer. Now, it's not very many guys, right? We're seriously outnumbered. I'm going to move my 6th kind of off to the side over there so they have a little bit of an angle. And we're going to basically spread out our lines to form sort of an arch around the enemy. Looks like the enemy's backed up even further at this stage. So I'm going to use my 2nd cav here, both as a cav screen, but also as distraction for the enemy. But my 1st Corps is sort of getting unruly over here. Sometimes your enemies, when you're commanding 8 groups like this, you'll forget that some of the troops were told to advance, and you wanted them to advance only so far. By the way, as I punch this tree here, trees make wonderful shields, right? I can sit here and command my units free of arrow fire. Right, you see our horses getting lit up with arrows. This tree is just covered in arrows. I'm moving another cavalry on the wing over there. What we're basically going to do here, though, is confuse the enemy by running cavalry on their flanks, sort of terrify them. And then we're going to advance our infantry here and 8th Corps right into the midst of the enemy at the same time. So it's going to happen fast. Cavalry divisions are sort of surrounding the enemy. They don't have any cavalry at this stage, right? You see them, they're getting pounded by arrows still. You can see the death screen. Now that cav is called back to us to attack, right? I just brought the cavalry back behind us. Ah, shit, another reinforcement wave. Well, hopefully those cavalry can occupy them for long enough time for us to wipe out this reinforcement wave. As soon as this wave is wiped out, though, we're going to make our combined attack, right? It's going to be the first corps, which is our heavy infantry, our 6 skirmishers, that's also over there on the left flank. We've got an archer corps that's probably either low or out of ammo. We've got the 8th corps here, and then both cavalry corps, if there's any men left, of course, at this stage, they will be sent in as well in this multi-sided attack. All right, moving up my archers. We've now charged with the infantry, the 1st and 6th infantry. We're making our move. And now the 8th corps I manually send into battle. I want these guys just driving deep into the enemy, but that's because I don't want their archers being able to spread out and shoot. Now we join them in battle. Now I realize my other troops are taking a little bit longer to get into formation here, to arrive, right? They're wading through that river. So I pulled my 8th corps back just a bit. It's a matter of attacking with your units at the same time. Now look at this fucking bitch rampaging. Kill this bitch. It's a fucking tough enemy hero here. And we're pouring in now with the 8th corps. Now these 8th corps, there's many of them are archers, but a lot of them are high-level family members that have archery skills, but they're also nasty at melee, right? Again, I'm pulling my 8th corps back here, right? We're going to try to get these guys out of here. Give them a little respite while their enemy reinforcements pour in. We'll drive them all the way back and handle these reinforcements. The enemy's actually attacking us with reinforcements, and that's a very bad decision. I've just pulled back my 8th corps, so they will be concentrated back here. Now we charge, right? And these guys just charge the fucking lion den. This is not going to go well for them. These are middle-tier troops fighting level 40 and level 45 companions. And, of course, I'm in there wielding my axe like a maniac. And this is a very bad expected outcome for the enemy. Now, I'm watching the other side of the battle. My 1st and 6th units are still making progress, and I see archers over there now charging into battle as well. So as soon as this wave of the enemy is dissolved, we're charging in. The enemy at this stage is taking an ass whipping, and one of the things that happens when the enemy's getting beat really bad is their morale breaks. It's you know, a little bit of realism too. Like if you're getting cut to pieces. Well, first of all, as soon as my friend had his arms cut off, I would be out of here. But in Bannerlord, effectively, once you kill a certain number of enemies, and now these are peasants, right? These are farmers. Their morale will break, and they will head for the exits. Look at it; they're already starting to waver. My 8th corps is charging in. We're heavily armored, and we're fighting guys that are wearing literally bathrobes from the hotel they went to. I'm gaining levels here. Yeah, we charge. Look at how fast they're running. They're out of here. These guys have had enough. We're gonna punish them all the way, though. Some of these guys are resolutely holding on and shooting us with arrows. I don't think so. We're going to fucking mangle people. I think they can't remember what happened. I think they're imagining that they cornered us in this town and we had no chance but to run. Well, it's you motherfuckers that are running. After you're savaged, we cut down you pitchfork motherfuckers. Just blaze through here with our two-handed axe. And as the sun sets, so goes the enemy. They got a handful of stragglers that are left, but that's pretty much it. So hopefully this shows you how to deal with entrenched defending enemies. Typically I find it a very poor strategy. In this case, of course, we ended up massacring a force 3 times our size. Subscribe to the channel if you're interested in more tactics like this. We have all kinds of different scenarios we play out. And thanks again for watching, friends.